Next up, we have Challenger Exploration, and the Managing Director, Kris, is going to be talking to us about all the work, and these guys have been really busy in Argentina and Ecuador. Kris, great to see you, and sorry it's not in person, but that's COVID for you. Let's talk about Challenger and what you guys have been up to.
No, thanks for having me, Kerry. And yes, we have been busy, particularly at Walilan. And just that, front cover there, that's a photo of Walilan. The gold sits in the top 50 meters, shoots straight down the hill, undercover there, and looks like it goes a hell of a long way now undercover. And in terms of, quick logistics, I'd mentioned it before, what you can't see there is a double-lane sealed highway just out of shot. And the Argentinian government has put in a sort of trans-Argentinian power line, 2 k's from us, cheap hydro power. And we're 1,000 meters above sea level, so work all year round. So really, this thing is equivalent to being about 80 k's out of Kalgoorlie in Western Australia.
Wow.
So quick sort of, summary, 2 projects. I'll just touch on the Ecuadorian project El Guabo first. Southern Ecuador, 5 k's along strike from a 17 million ounce ore body that's going through permitting. We got the other half of that 17 million ounce ore body, results like 134 meters at a gram. And we're just waiting for a couple of rigs to get through customs to start drilling there. So I don't think the market gives us any value, but watch this space, and it could be a nice surprise coming out of Ecuador as we start drilling there in the next couple of months. Walilan in Argentina, very much the lead project. 500,000 ounces historically at about 10 grams gold equivalent, open in all directions, and we've discovered a big intrusion hosted system underlying it. 9 rigs going, 120,000 meters to drill in the next 12 months. We passed the milestone the other day, 84,000 meters drilled, so that's in 2 years. So in the next 12 months, you're going to see 150% of the meters we've drilled in the last 2 years, so plenty of news flow. And just up there, you can see some of the results we're getting in the past 2 weeks. As we begin to understand the system and hone in on it, we're just getting better and better results. And hopefully that doesn't stop anytime soon. 80 square k's of tenure, which surrounds the sort of 2 k's where all of the drillings come from. And really, we've got 20 kilometers of strike that we haven't really looked at. We're just starting to get onto that now. Great metallurgy, which means low capex and easy opex. The metallurgy is vitally important in something like this. And, cash at bank, post moving to 100% of Walilan, 42.5 million. So that lets us do another 120,000 meters of drilling, 20,000 meters in Ecuador. We'll still have 10 or 11 million cash left after that. So basically, we can aggressively go at this thing regardless of market conditions over the next 12 to 18 months. A little bit about who we are. Myself and Fletcher were founding MD and chairman of Citadel Resources. Scott Funkston, CFO, come out of a Banco, which was a startup to a $500 million takeover. And I've overlaid down the bottom the sort of where we are on the journey. So on the black line there is 5 years at Citadel, from startup at 3 cents to a $1.2 billion takeout. Now, we lost a year sitting around waiting for a mining lease. So really where we are in Challenger is we're 2 years into a 4-year journey. It's a great time to be a Challenger shareholder. You'll really see a lot of value add in the next 24 months as we drill out 200,000 meters, then finish a bankable feasibility study. So if that all goes to plan, in the next 2 years, we'll double the share price and then double it again. And then either, if we're still around, look to get this thing in production, where we'll then get another uplift as a producer.
What I love, Kris, about that is just, you know exactly where you're going. It's like, shareholders, here we are. We're building the foundation and we know exactly where we're going.
Oh, look, our biggest risk is that we're not around to actually finish it because someone decides they want to own us.
That's your biggest challenge, yeah.
Yeah. And look, this is just, it shows you that sort of high grade historical resource of this 500,000 ounces. I used to try and overlay where we've extended the mineralization on this, but it just gets too messy. We've basically tripled the depth extent of this. We've Magnata vein and Sanchez vein are the 2 main east-west structures. The fluids have come up there. We've doubled the strike length of the Magnata vein, pushed mineralization from 100 meters to 400 meters subsurface. We've extended it into the middle. Basically, it's been extended everywhere. Where does it land? Certainly a lot bigger than the 500,000 ounces of high grade. And then we'll talk about the mag later, but basically we've only drilled 1/3 of the sort of circular feature this sits on. So there's a lot of scope to improve this. And this is sort of the bigger picture now, with the purple as the intrusion hosted material. You can see it sits sort of under the hills. It's underneath and around the high grade. And what we can see there is, hole sort of 25, we get 88 metres at 0.9, followed it up with hole 32, 116 metres at 1.1 in the intrusives. The previous model had been it was a skarn, so when you got into the intrusives, you stopped drilling and didn't bother to assay. So what we've got is we've got the gap zone we defined fairly early in the piece. That's 400 metres long, 60 metres wide, goes a gram. And this new verde zone where we've got results of 125 metres at 1.1. We've got some holes in the middle now, 69 metres at 3.4, then right up to North Magnata where we've got some nice high-grade intersections, 131 at 2.5. It looks like this is, and we've got a lot more drilling into it now than what we show here, but it looks like it's a continuous zone of mineralisation, at least 1.2 kilometres long. It's 50 to 100 metres wide. It's open at depth. We've defined it down to 300 metres subsurface. I mean, that's a big tonnage ore body. So, that's where a lot of the growth comes from. We end up with a nice high-grade pod and then, a lot of intrusion-hosted material. We'll know in 12 months just how big this thing is going to get. And, what does it actually look like? So on the right, I'm showing you this in plan. The pink is the intrusives that host a lot of this mineralisation. Think, De Grey's Hemi is an intrusive hosted system, very different ages, but the core looks quite similar. So we've got, 1.5 kilometres, and then the green here is the high-grade skarn. Basically, see these two east-west structures, the Magnata Fault, the Sanchez Fault, and then north-south lodes as well, and they're all open. And then recently we've extended it about 0.5 kilometre down here to the south, so where we've got some nice high-grade results. And in 3D, this is the block model. You can see here on the left, the Magnata Fault mineralisation open in both directions. The high-grade skarn here, hasn't been drilled up deep into the hills. You can see it in outcrop here, and that's very important. We've got some channel sampling up into the hills we put out about a month ago where we've got 15.6 metres at 71, including 4 metres at 200. What we think is happening is the high-grade mineralisation, the Bonanza zone, is actually above surface up dip into the hills. So we've got a man-portable rig on site now and starting to drill that out where we think we'll get some really nice high grades. And you can see the pink of the intrusion-hosted material underneath. You just end up taking the whole lot out in a big open pit, and you start treating the high-grade mineralisation first. It really lends itself to a sort of scaled startup. We start with a 1 million tonne per annum plant and then expand it out of cash flow to a 6 or 7 million tonne per annum plant.
Wow.
And this is the same shot basically in photo, showing you what it looks like. You see the outcrop of the high-grade mineralisation, the old workings, the intrusives, and a couple of other zones heading further south out here. We're getting repeats of this intrusion-hosted mineralisation as well.
And Kris, it looks to me that there's no issues there with, having to get sort of environmental. It's just a big desert area.
The only competing land use is a couple of llamas that drink out of one of the little water holes. We'll have to put in a couple of water bores for the llamas. That's about it. There's about 4 llamas every 20 square kilometres. So no, competing land use is not a massive issue. And look, and I'll go now to some of the sort of more recent results we've been getting. This is some drilling we announced last week from Centezon. You can see there in section, Centezon was right at the extreme southern end of the mineralisation. It was viewed as something small, pretty complex, not understood. You have a look at the section there and it actually hangs together really well. Some of those results there, that's 16.9 metres at 16.9. That actually confirms that there's a second zone of mineralisation at depth. We drilled a hole about 3 months ago that got 40 metres at 6, 50 metres below the main zone, and we didn't quite know what it was. Well, we've now got a bunch of holes that basically show it's a second deeper zone that's got some fairly significant width. That's, that 50 metres at 2, including 2.4 at 17 is out of that zone.
How deep is that zone, Kris?
Basically, it starts from about 100 metres. We've now defined it down to sort of 300 metres subsurface. And as you can see there, the photo of the core, we've got some deeper holes we're waiting for assays where certainly they haven't missed it. It's still there. So, this thing now is both of these zones are, we've doubled the depth extent of both of these zones in this recent drilling. They're still wide open at depth and also up dip into the hills. Centres on, from something that was poorly understood now looks like it's going to be a fairly significant body of mineralisation and add to the high grade.
And Kris, just for those people that have not heard of Challenger before, we've got a lot of people on this call. How did Challenger Exploration manage to get their hands on this? Because it sounds to me like it's very well mineralized, very well endowed area.
It was known for a long time. Basically, I got over there, took a punt. The tenement was split into two halves. I did a deal and got the southern half when the northern half wasn't available. All of the other groups that had tried to get it wanted the whole lot gift wrapped into a bow. And basically, I had a swing, spent some money, and the mines department saw we were serious, and really we've put the whole lot together over the last 2 years. But we risked $500,000, $1 million, and spent some money before we had the rest, on the promise that we'd be able to put it together if we showed the mines department we were spending the money.
Wow. Okay. Well done.
Sometimes you got to do that. But my wife wasn't happy about it at the start. We've just finished the 33-hole program, stepping out the Magnata Fault, which is one of the main east-west feeder structures. Great results again. These were out 2 weeks ago. All 33 holes intersected mineralisation. What do they mean? Basically, hole 288 got 14 metres at 13.6. That pushed the Magnata Fault mineralisation another 100 metres deeper than we've seen it. It's still wide open at all. At depth, wide open along strike. It now looks like it's 3 zones, not sort of 2 zones we thought it were. And it's in outcrop another 200 metres to the east, and then across the other side of the hill where we're just starting to drill. So, this could be a really significant body of high-grade mineralisation as well. And then on the section there, you can see that 96 metres at 2, that's actually clipped through the top of the Verde zone as well, which is the new discovery and intrusion-hosted material. It gives you a feel for the dip of the Verde zone. And I'll just sort of show you the Verde zone there in plan view on the right. The holes that are in blue are logged as sulfides with assays pending. So, we're pretty relaxed now. This thing is 1.2 kilometres long at least. And again, 1.2 kilometres long, 50 to 100 metres wide. There's big tonnage there, and it goes, somewhere between a gram, just under, just over. So it'll be a big body of mineralisation.
And that's all going to be open pittable, is that right, Kris?
All open pittable. And then as we sort of shoot south, this is a hole we put out about 8 weeks ago, hole 196. It got 70 metres at 3.4, which was north of a couple of holes that didn't get much. And now that we've sat back and put the big picture together, this is actually the southern extent of the Verde zone. You can see the mag data on the right. We'd started drilling the magnetic highs, thinking that was where the mineralisation was. What we've now worked out is that the mineralisation is actually on the edges of these magnetic highs. The alteration associated with the mineralisation has demagnetised the intrusives. And we can see on the mag here, there's this big signature. It goes basically all the way up through to Verde, where you've got these lows on the flanks of the highs, and pretty much everywhere we're drilling, and we're getting into nice intrusion-hosted mineralisation as well. So that's where the geophysics is working and helping us. And again, you can see from the shape of this thing, it's pretty well placed from an open cut perspective. It'll be a nice low strip ore body. On the left, we've done some more work with the metallurgy, and the metallurgy, when you look at a project like this, is vitally important. In terms of what does it mean, we've sort of doubled the concentrate grade from low 30s to almost 60 grams. Now, in terms of what does that mean, when it's $200 a tonne to get this concentrate to China, if all of a sudden you're doing 2 ounces in your con rather than 1, you basically halve your transport costs. It's $100 an ounce. The math's is pretty simple. Right. And conversely, too, you go from getting paid, low 80s to 90% of the value of the gold in the con. The gold price at 1,800, 7% is another $100. I mean, again, the math's pretty simple. I mean, that's why the metallurgy is so important. There's $200 an ounce cash cost saving that we didn't have 3 weeks ago.
Wow.
And the fact that, we've got this great metallurgy means it's going to be a low capex starter operation. We don't need the back end of the plant. So, the met here, we just got lucky with the met. Didn't expect that at all. The old work they'd done, it was getting 80% recovery at best. But, we've done the work early. And one of my pet hates is people coming out with this multi-million ounce resource and then, oops, sorry, it's refractory. We don't know what we're going to do. Right. So we've knocked that on the head early. And then on the right, I'm showing you the magnetic data. It's called the ATE. Effectively, it's the azimuth of the magnetic data to true north. It really shows an age map. But what it does is it brings out the system here. So this red blob in the middle is what we think is the intrusion. That's the source of mineralisation. Then wrapping all around the edges, obviously the non-mineralisation there is this high-grade skarn on the edge of this intrusion, and then in the middle you've got the lower grade. So basically we've got one drill hole here to the south. Historically, they've got 3 meters at 1.5 grams before they stop the hole. So we know it's mineralised down here. So, in terms of the 2Ks, we've got most of these results. We've really only drilled a third of the structure. And then when you step back and take a look at the bigger picture, this is the same map blown out. You don't just have this one circular anomaly in number one. You've got another 3 or 4 of those.
Wow.
That are sitting there. And, it begins to become important when I'm showing you, something interesting is happening with some of the recent deeper holes we're drilling out west at Verde. You can see the core there. It's actually got a lot more garnet than pyroxene in there, which means it's a higher temperature assemblage. So we're sitting here going, are we getting closer to the source of this thing? Where you're a long way away from this sort of number one circular feature. We're wondering now whether this number 4 is going to become more and more important, and we need to get some drilling on there. But again, we're still at the stage where we're learning something new every day from this system, and all I can tell you is, it's still throwing up surprises and getting bigger. My favourite slide, you've got De Grey's Hemi on the left here to scale, a 7 million ounce ore body, and going to get a lot bigger too. It's 2Ks by 3Ks. You've got us to the same scale. We now know we've got mineralisation 3Ks from north to south, and we're about to start drilling over here on the right where we've got intrusions covering the same area. So we've got a lot of room to grow this thing, and if we get lucky, we can potentially get a very large deposit here as well. We've certainly got the scale that this thing could get a whole lot bigger, and we've got no signs of closing this thing off at the moment.
And 9 rigs.
And 9 rigs going. And look, just to sort of wrap up, I've got a photo there showing the gold anomaly in Colorado V in our project in Ecuador. And the reason I've got that up there is because, drilling is going to start there. We're just waiting for these 2 rigs. We've got a number of really large gold in soil anomalies where you've got, 0.6, 0.5, 0.7 gram mineralization on the edges. No holes have ever been drilled in the middle because their camp sits where the B is and their treatment plant sits where A is. And no value for those things. And then also some big soil anomalies down here on trend with the open pit where they've done some drilling and got 146 meters at 1.5 grams and another 124 meters at 1.1. So watch this space in Ecuador. 2 minutes. Thank you. I'm well and truly on track. So look, just to wrap up, you're going to get the news flow that comes from 9 rigs on site in Argentina, 2 rigs drilling in Ecuador. We basically drilled 80,000 meters in 2 years. We're going to drill 120,000 meters in the next 11 months. We're getting better success rates now. We understand the mineralization. I'm comfortable Julian's large, going to get a lot bigger. And in the next couple of months, you'll see the first drilling on some of these other areas away from Julian, and success on any of those will see a significant re-rating. There's 2 rigs going to focus on that. And then, Ecuador, the market's giving us no value for that. If we get lucky here, we end up with the other half of 17 million ounces. So, watch this space, and it's a great time to be a Challenger shareholder.
Well, Kris, thank you very much. I've got time for one quick question, and that is from a shareholder point of view, those that are not shareholders who are looking, jurisdiction of Ecuador and Argentina. Pro-mining, easy to work. Is COVID causing any issues for you?
Argentina, pro-mining. The new president has basically put the foot down with the mining minister, said, I want all these projects up and running. COVID's there, but it's not really impacting us. Okay. Ecuador have just passed new mining legislation, which really cleans up the whole mess. Our sort of head of environment had a meeting with the president about a week ago, and he made it plain that, they're now pro-mining. They know that's where the foreign currency comes from. They need mining. So, Ecuador is really, it was always fairly certain, but all of a sudden it's really pro-mining. It's turned in the last couple of months. COVID there is a little bit worse, but you can still get stuff done.
All right. So from a jurisdiction point of view, it's fine. Kris, last quick question. What's next for shareholders and those that are looking to jump in? What would you say is a good reason? Why invest in Challenger right now?
Look, we're going to double the share price in the next 12 months. If it all goes to plan, then double it again. 9 rigs going, so there's no shortage in news flow. We're waiting on some nice assay results, we think, visually out of Verde, and also some of these deeper holes at Stevenson should be coming fairly shortly, where, again, visually, they've certainly extended this high grade another 100, 200 metres down dip. So, you're going to get continual news flow. And
all righty, we're out of time. Thank you, Kris. Really appreciate the challenge. What a story, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us at the Virtual Gold Conference.
Bye-bye.